And welcome to the new Super Sound Showcase, sponsored by Culture Picks. I am your host, Robert Hodge, and today, if you saw my Facebook blurb, I told you that today was a very special episode of the new Super Sound Showcase because today, one of my very favorite artists in this area is Matt Thomas, and Matt is here for the very first time on WMBG. Matt, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh my gosh, it's been on my wish list ever since I got this show, and it's going on 10 months now that I've had this show, and I've been waiting for the day that you entered this studio, and here you are.
Well, I'm very, very excited to be here and be able to play for everybody in Williamsburg.
Well, and one of the reasons that I am so fanatically interested in your music is you are a songwriter extraordinaire. You are an unrivaled guitarist, and you specialize in harp guitar, which a lot of people don't even know, but it's such a rarity, and one of the greatest finger-picking guitarists in this world.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, you have the title and the pedigree to prove it. It's not just that I like you. It's just that he actually is a world champion. And I got to tell you, we are fortunate to have you in this area because if anybody has seen you, they know what a dynamic performer you are. And that's what really gets to me because I'm big on showmanship. And if you can light up a stage and you can draw an audience to the point where their mouths are hanging open, when those fingers start flying, dude, I've watched what people do and how they respond.
You know, I try to do the guitar justice.
Well, the reason you do a justice is you have a complete symbiotic relationship with it. It's a part of your soul. Much like when I feel like I'm connected to a piano, you do the exact same thing with that guitar.
You just approach it different, you know?
Yeah.
I try to think of it more as an interface rather than it being an instrument. It's just a way that I can think out loud.
Well, and that's exactly what comes through because the music that you create is the expression of your heart that comes, this is your voice. Rather than singing it, it's coming out of that voice box.
I've got a pretty voice here, too.
That you do. All right. So, tell us about how all this began. Tell us your history, just in a nutshell.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's back it up.
When did music choose you is where I want to start.
Well, I started playing trumpet in high school. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had music embedded in me at that point. You learn music theory and you learn things like that. But then I realized the trumpet isn't necessarily the best instrument when you're in high school if you want to be cool and try to be popular. So I decided, well, let's pick up the guitar. And I started with rock and stuff like that. But when I was 16, I saw this guy named Tommy Emmanuel. At Yoder Barn.
He's been on my show, actually.
And that moment changed my life forever. So from that moment, I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. So I obsessed. I sat there and I practiced for as many hours as I could each day. And then the next year, I went back to see him at Yoder Barn, and he got to hear me. And he was so excited by how far I had come, he invited me on stage.
Oh, nice.
And that moment really solidified it. And then the following year, they had a harp guitar gathering here in Williamsburg. Mm-hmm. And I happened to have a family friend that just so happened to have a harp guitar that he had built.
Right.
I had no idea how to play it, so he showed up to my parents' house with this harp guitar in hand and said, hey, go to this harp guitar gathering. So I show up, and it turns out Stephen Bennett was organizing and running it. Mm-hmm. So suddenly I ran into two of the most influential guitar players in my whole lifetime within a year span of each other.
Right.
And it just kind of moved forward from there. They gave me some great suggestions. Go to Nashville and check out the Chet Atkins convention and check out some of these competitions on the way. So I did that for many years.
Yeah, so let's talk about the competition that you did in Kansas.
No, the most recent one.
Yes.
Yes, that one. Deal. That's kind of like the Olympics of fingerstyle competing. Actually, a lot of the competitions around the world are umbrella. So the winner from those, like Japan's international championship, the winner of that gets a place to compete at Winfield in Kansas.
Nice.
So I had an idea that was going to be terrifying going there, but I knew it was time to pull up my boots and go.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I drove all the way out to Kansas and slept in the back of my Honda Fit. Mm-hmm. And I actually wasn't even on the official list. I was on the standby list. They only accept the first 40, and that fills up just about within the first week of the actual registration opening up in January. So I went all the way out there and just prayed and hoped and went, all right, I'm going to be here. And if I get a chance to get on that stage, I'm going to do it. And the first round, I got real nervous and I choked a little bit. So I kind of went back and I reflected and went, okay, go and take notes. The best players in the world are here. Learn what you can do better. And out of nowhere, I got called into the finals, the top 5.
Perfect.
And somehow I skated through and came out with 3rd place.
In the world, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what, you are going to hear one of the greatest fingerstyle guitarists in the world today. And I've long known this. Matt is my personal friend, and we've known each other now for a number of years, but it's really only been in the last year and a half that I feel like I've gotten a little closer and I know more about your music and have seen you perform live much more. And I tell you, I've become a fan as well as your friend, and that's one reason I love to talk about you. And when I tell people about you and I start talking about harp guitar, almost invariably people are like, what in the world is a harp guitar? And you can probably give them the best description briefly of the combination of the sounds and how it's put together.
Well, it's simply put, it is a guitar. It looks very much like a guitar with an extra appendage or extension. And they have low bass strings, or harp strings rather. And they're not fretted. They're sympathetic, so they're drones, and you tune them to whatever you'd like. But it then has
essentially it expands your range and your ability
like
to play harmonies and sub melodies, and it's fantastic when you pick that up.
And you don't even have to play them all the time, since they're resonant. It's very much like the sustain pedal on a piano. You hit notes up high, you hear the overtones ring throughout the different strings and stuff.
Well, it is for good reason that Matt Thomas has become something of a local celebrity. He is on the networks are having him on television. He's on Coast Live and the Hampton Road Show all the time. It seems like every time I turn around, I'm seeing you out there plugging something. And one of the things that I admire, you were just talking about learning from the other people at that competition. Ever since I've known you, there has never been a moment where I felt you were resting on your laurels, so to speak. You are constantly looking for a way to improve your technique and your sound and your songwriting, and you are working every day, and that's what I admire.
There's always room for growth.
Yeah, but that's what I admire about you.
If I become stagnant, I don't feel whole.
That's
so
fantastic.
I've got to constantly keep working at this. Plus, there's so much music out there that it's yet to be written.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. I did an interview about 2 weeks ago with Scott Hamilton, the Olympic ice skater. And one of my favorite things that I've been telling everybody that I'm encountering and everybody I work with, he said the path to victory is the path that you're on from the moment that you choose that it is, that you decide that it is. And, that has remotivated me in a whole new light. And just hearing what you just said is pushing me towards redevelopment and reinvention of a lot of the things that I believe as an artist as well. So I think we're on the same page with that, and that's exciting. I want to hear this guitar. I want to hear it sing.
Me too.
Tell me what you want to do for us first.
I'm going to play you guys a tune that I wrote called To Nashville and Back. And it's a dedication.
This is on your album.
It is. It's one of the tracks off the album. It's actually a little story about the Chet Atkins convention and about meeting all those wonderful players and taking a lot of those new techniques and putting them down. So I'll go ahead and play this for you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Thomas. And there was no electronic wizardry in that amazing fade. That was all part of the artistic integrity of Matt Thomas. And let me tell you what, I love that song. And you know what? I want to give you this compliment, which I've been fortunate enough to have people tell me that when they listen to some of the things I've done on the piano, that when I'm not singing, they can still hear the words. They can still hear the images of the song. Exactly what I was feeling listening to you play. You gave us just a brief description of what inspired the song, and I could hear and imagine every piece of that and every piece of the imagery. You really interpret with that guitar.
Thank you.
And it's just such a pleasure to listen.
Yeah, that song kind of was a journey, and that's
I hear
what
it.
That trip
I
represents.
hear a little bit of a train. I hear a little bit of all kinds of things happening in that. And you know what? It's so beautiful the way your imagination is stimulated by the imagery that you put into that music. And we are going to have to go and listen to 3 minutes of commercial, but we will continue to broadcast from the studio on our Facebook Live. Stephanie is holding her camera and focused on me at the moment. We always like to think that in that 3 minutes we have an extra little tidbit that you will not hear on the radio. So you don't want to be tuned to one or the other. You need to have both of them rolling around. And we will be right back with more songs from Matt Thomas. And we are back. You are listening to the new Super Sound Showcase. We are sponsored by Culture Fix, and I'm your host, Robert Hodge, and my guest is virtuoso musician Matt Thomas. If you don't know his work, you better get to know it. And get to know it while he's still based in our area before some major deal takes him away from us, and before you have to beg to meet him, because he is out there, he is accessible, he is in clubs. Tell us where they can find you, Matt.
Actually, March 2nd. Portsmouth is having their First Fridays concert series, and I'll be kicking off this season.
Oh, nice. I always start with a big name.
Oh, yeah. And that will be at the Portsmouth Art and Cultural Center from 5 to 8 p.m. So that's going to be real fun. I'm really excited about that. And then on March 11th, Dustin Furlow and I are actually going to be playing at the Vanguard. And that's going to be awesome. They've got a killer sound system, and it really integrates well with my live rig. It's pretty much all QSC, and they have QSC. Right. It's going to be a good time. You need to be there, Facebook.
Amen. And you know, the thing is, I had you scheduled to be on this show in January, and then that winter storm came and not only forced you to cancel being here, but unfortunately you were gonna perform with Travis Bowman, and that show got canceled, but it's been rescheduled, and I'm excited about that.
The month of April is going to be real fun because the two people that beat me at Winfield are coming to town, and we're actually going to be doing shows together. On April 14th, Christy Linnae and I will be doing a concert at Ziders American Dream Theater in Virginia Beach, and that's
beautiful
sponsored
place
by Tidewater Friends of Acoustic Music. And they're also sponsoring the next one that's the rescheduled one for Travis Bowman and I, and that's April 28th, also at Ziders American Dream Theater.
Wow.
Beautiful venue down there.
And I have to say, I just want to make one comment. I admire the fact when I've seen you, you've performed with Christy, I know before, and when I see you perform with the people that are your closest competitors, I think what a marvelous attitude that you have, that you embrace the camaraderie and the collaboration with the people that you're up against, and it's just brilliant, Matt, the way you run your career.
It's an interesting thing that we do going to competitions. It's trying to figure out who's better. One of my favorite things about it is going to see what I'm not.
Exactly.
Because then it inspires me to do things that I can't always fathom of doing. New techniques that, people from around the world are coming up with. And I go, I will do my research, or stealing, whichever you consider it. I like to call it research, as Chet Atkins used to say.
Yeah.
And I'll borrow that and implement it to the guitar in my own way.
Right.
So, and actually, this next tune is one that I did at the competition, which is something very much so. I did that with. It's an Irish-themed tune. I love to dig into science and figure things out and get inspired in that way. So this was just a random fact, but I'm a blonde, but when I grow a beard, it's red. And I had no idea why, so I looked it up, and it's due to incomplete dominant recessive traits.
Okay.
So I asked my parents, and it turns out I've got a lot of Irish in my heritage, and I had no idea.
All right, Matthew Thomas, fire it up.
So here's this fun jig tune that I wrote called Incomplete Dominant Traits. I hope you enjoy it.
Nice. Wow. You know, it just fascinates me, your writing process, because so many people, you know, their melodies center around the flow of the lyric without a lyric, and yet creating the same imagery musically. Where does it, what is your process? Describe your songwriting for me and how these magnificent pieces come to life.
You know,
where does it come from?
That goes back to the way I learned music.
Okay.
I kind of was exposed to classical music and classical theory and things like that, and somehow I missed the boat where those two arts, music and poetry, merged. So to me, melody is what really drives the story and moves you further. So I don't need the words to tell me. The music does that all on its own.
Right. Wow. Well, I agree with you, because I don't need words in your songs either, and I'm certainly not implying that. as a writer myself, I'm just finding that I'm more dependent on the flow of my lyrics sometimes to influence the melody. And I don't write a lot of instrumental pieces, even though I'm primarily known as a pianist rather than a singer. I write more often things that I can sing. So I don't know. I guess it's just a little foreign to me, and I was curious about it. What's the next song?
This next one is a real new one.
This is one of the brand new pieces.
This is one of the brand new ones that I'm going to be recording soon. So look for the new album, going to be coming up in a few months.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
But this one, kind of, I was reading about this thing called Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, off the coast of Australia, there's a community of octopi that have built a city.
Right.
And
they built a city?
If one of them does something the other doesn't like, they exile him. They have different social levels.
Oh, wow.
This isn't the only one. There's also Octolopolis. So it got me thinking, there's all kinds of different cephalopods out there. So what if there was this giant cephalopod king way down deep, and he's just waiting for most of the humans to die off, and then he's going to come up and just wipe it clean and rule the earth.
Okay.
Because they've stated, or at least some theorists believe, that if the humans were gone, cephalopods would rule the earth. So this is in that theme. I know it's a little kooky.
Wow, no, I'm loving it.
But it's a lot of this music. There's no words, so it's all the idea of a fantasy or journey and story. So this one is about that giant octopus king.
Let me just preface that the thing I love about my community of musicians is their creativity. And dude, you have taken this to a whole nother level of creativity. So now I cannot wait to hear this new song, and I'm waiting with bated breath for the new album. So let's have it.
All right, here we go.
I like that. I like that a lot. And in fact, the image that my mind was wandering a little bit and just sort of relaxing into the creativity of it. And I got to thinking, I've got a commitment coming up now in May in Montreal to perform for 1,000 of the world's leading marine scientists. And I'm going to be part of a presentation they're making to talk about the conservation and improving the oceans. And I got to thinking, I wonder if they can figure out a way for you to somehow, once you get that recorded, do a concert for the colony of the octopi. Maybe we can broadcast it into them, and you could be the first one to do an octopi concert.
That's a whole.
It'll remotivate their plan.
Journey trying to please not just human, but
exactly.
Octopi.
You could be their favorite artist in a matter of moments.
They might be really judgmental. We don't know.
I think they will like it just as we did. We're all out of time. In fact, we're over time, and I've had the best time. And I thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
As I said, you are my friend, and you are an artist that I respect.
And if you guys want to see when and where I'm playing, make sure you check out my website.
Yes, please.
That's thematthomas.com. I'm around this town all over. And if you're a venue and you want to have me, hurry up.
And you can always call Robert Hodge here at WMBG and say, where is that genius Matt Thomas? I can find him and I can deliver him because he is my friend and he's an artist that I believe in and endorse fully. So go see him, buy his albums, support him, because when it's not enough to just say support local music. Support not only local music and everybody in it, but support the really great artists who spend every minute being devoted to their craft and making it better for their listeners. So he's working hard for you. Now it's your turn. Work hard for him, okay? I ask you in the name of music. So back to our regular programming, and thank you, Matt Thomas. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.